Hi, I'm Amy Kluber, Editor-in-Chief at GovCIO Media and Research. I am sitting here with Army Acting CIO Gabe Chiulli, and we just left stage where Gabe shared some news around a new innovative way to work with industry around DevSecOps. So Gabe, give us the rundown.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we went through kind of a couple different big things that the Army's doing with DevSecOps. One of the big projects that we're kind of announcing, it's been part of the bucket of things that the Secretary of the Army is called Project ARIA, advancing AI into the Army. It's been a big push for us. One of the projects, kind of named to be announced really, but I'm putting on this label called Project Gatekeeper. And the concept behind this is how do I work better with industry? And also how do I really get after looking at code and applying AI to that problem set? And then finding a way to really take that code and bring it into our environment in a safe manner, bringing industry to the table, giving them kind of feedback really actively into what their code looks like from our perspective and the way we're kind of looking at code going into our environment. And then hopefully incentivizing by providing them some sort of authorization to really deploy their code into our environment, really even in some cases before the follow-on relationships that usually takes like weeks and months of trying to get CAC cards, this, that, and the other, trying to really break that barrier. So first thing is getting them access to an environment, letting them deploy, code, containers, whatever kind of mechanism that they have. Us doing kind of an evaluation. We have a couple different things that we do today. A lot of people understand our CDSO pipelines, which is a pipeline to push code through to get an accreditation. This is taking kind of a step further to introducing this to industry to say like, hey, you provide your containers here. They meet the gates and guards that we put in place. We do some AI security scanning on it, working with some of the frontier companies. And then we take that code of those containers and move them into like our IL5, like cross-domain it almost into our kind of more secure environments. And then really that incentive is for the partner to work with us. Very similar to like Operation Jailbreak, which you may have heard of, which is we're trying to figure out the best way to work with industry and really empower them and incentivize that relationship with our industry partners.
Sounds like with AI sort of changing the game in a lot of these areas, this is sort of a natural project to look forward to.
Yeah, and AI is introducing kind of that new threat nexus where we have a lot of CVs being identified, right? And it's like if I was only seeing 50 a week, now we could be seeing up to 500 a week. And so now it comes down to a game of prioritization. And I really want to be able to provide a quick mechanism to industry to say like, look, there might be a lot of highs in there, but there's like really one that's really like important high. And then there are ones we may already be aware of defense in depth that kind of protects that, or at least it delegates down that priority to something a little bit lower. Even if it's still a high, at least I want to take action on those top three. And that way I can give feedback directly to industry and say, hey, go fix this versus not wasting your time, but, spending an exorbitant amount of time on something that I think is less actionable than the one I kind of prioritize up top. So this is really that kind of incentive model I think industry is kind of looking for too, because when I send them a list of 50, it's kind of hard for them to work off that. But if I'm like, hey, here's the top 5, and then start getting after the ones below that, I think that really helps protect us, along with helps them understand how to shape their teams and their development.
Very exciting news to come that I'm going to keep an eye out for. Considering DevSecOps, what is one challenge you think is sort of not getting enough attention right now that you think is worth highlighting? Yeah,
generally speaking, because DevSecOps is so incremental and so it's a very deliberate process. You're doing stuff very quickly. It's meant to like kind of push stuff through the process, in a very staged way. One of the areas I think is how do you prioritize what is really important to go fix from a cybersecurity perspective, which is kind of what my other effort's kind of really about is how do I then help shape what is getting prioritized? Because, from an industry perspective, they're just working on the list and it's, they may know the ones that are very important to them, but they may be lower importance to me based on the way I deploy my infrastructure. And so working down these different areas with them will definitely help kind of tie together some of those knots on like, how do we work better together? The other area that I think it's not necessarily hard, but it's like, it's a challenge just because it's like, mechanical is the aspect of saying, I've got a container, I've got, code, whatever it is. I want to make sure that I can deploy this into one to many places. And the hard part about that is a lot of people say the word like reciprocity. And I want to make sure when we say like, hey, this container is allowed to run on all networks, that we really do mean that. And that there's something that's there to protect it and do all the different logging and all those different aspects there to kind of receive it and fulfill its kind of role. And so one of the areas that I'm working through right now is trying to identify those different platforms where containers can roll. And that way I can kind of list them out in a kind of a digitized way that says, hey, if you're on one of these, could be Navy, could be Air Force, we'll kind of subscribe the platform to those places so that they can seamlessly move that entire process from, ideation all the way through into production.
You are a pretty technical guy, as we just heard, and you sort of carried from your previous role into your acting role now. You're still carrying that torch. Mm-hmm. Beyond DevSecOps, what excites you particularly about the Army's digital software future?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different areas. I think we're doing a lot of rapid modernization, which is awesome. I'm all about that. It's like my key tag. But then you've got areas that are like the not so pretty stuff, but they're really stuff we have to get after, which is all those things with like our business systems, right? Like they're not as beautiful as doing like some of this kind of very incremental temporal stuff, but they do require the same amount of attention. There's so much goodness that we're pushing and applying pressure to there. We've got a lot of pressure that we're applying to like how we do contracting. You may have seen in the Army, like we've got a lot of really cool ways that we're trying to innovate on just contracting and getting as many different optionality out there and kind of helping de-risk us from a financial perspective, from a competition perspective, all those different areas. And so fundamentally, I think my big role here is to give people optionality that we didn't have previously. And so that optionality is what really gives us the better price components, the technology components, not treating everything kind of peanut butter, if you will, when you say like, hey, a data center should have the same like infrastructure for virtualization as an edge device is just kind of ridiculous. And I think we're just kind of looking at it from that perspective of saying, how can I best apply technology to the layers and look at it a little less mechanically and more kind of throwing some analysis behind it and throwing some resourcing behind how best should we do this.
Very exciting stuff, and thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I'm super looking forward to all the new developments that you are sort of spearheading, especially now in your new role in Army HQ. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.